The Italian America Show is sponsored by Full Sponsorship. Cento Fine Foods. Trust your family with our family. The Bianchi Law Group. Dr. K, the Management Professor. The authors of the #1 international best-selling cookbook, Don't Cut the Basil. Dr. Mark D'Annunzio, National 4th Vice President, Order Sons and Daughters of Italy in America. The Grand Lodge of New York. The Grand Lodge of Ohio. The Grand Lodge of Virginia. The Grand Lodge of Maryland. The Grand Lodge of the Northwest, representing Oregon and Washington. Long Shot Productions, get back in the game. ACMT, Excellence in Aerospace Manufacturing. Purchase the new book, The Palm Beach PI, by Italian-American private investigator Frank Chiato, available now where books are sold. I'm Lisa Marie Falbo, and joining me tonight is my co-host, our national president, Bob Bianchi. Bob, how are you?
I'm doing great, Lisa. Thank you. How are you?
Great. We have our moderator down in Washington, D.C., Justin Smith. Justin, hello.
How are you?
And we are so honored to be joined by tonight's special guest, NCAA women's basketball legend, Geno Auriemma of the University of Connecticut, UConn Huskies. Gino, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate being on.
So most of your interviews are obviously based around basketball, right? And all of your successes you've had on the court. And we will definitely get into that tonight. But here on OSDIA Interviews Live, it's all about celebrating Italian culture and pride, something that you have a lot of. Please share with our audience your Italian background.
So I came over when I was 7 years old. With my mother, my brother, and my sister. I was the oldest, so I was 7. My brother was 5. My sister was 1. I think she was 1. And my father had been here for about a year. Back then, you had to go through a lot of trials and tribulations to get into the country. It was 13 days on a ship coming over from Naples. Every morning you wake up, all you see is water. It's thinking back on it. I don't know if I could do it today, but back then you were a little kid and you were just excited to, be going to a new country and you didn't know what to expect. But I remember going to school and wearing clothes that my mother had made me and looking really weird, like compared to everybody else, and not being able to say even a word of English. I knew nothing, and today, I kid when I ask people about it. I said, was there like English as a second language? Did you have tutors? Did you have, Rosetta Stone? Did you have anything? Like, I just laugh and I go, no, you just had to figure that stuff out.
Yeah.
And that was my first indoctrination into you better learn English and you better learn it fast and the value of making friends.
Yeah, absolutely. Bob?
Yeah, Coach, I was kind of wanted to ask you a question about that. So you didn't speak a word of English. It actually reminds me of my great-grandfather, although he was extremely well-educated and spoke 7 languages, Greek and Latin included. He didn't speak English when he immigrated to the United States, and yet he went to medical school at University of Maryland Medical School and learned English while he was in medical school. So fascinating story, but let me ask you, how did that affect you? Was your family the kind of family that many Italian families were, where they wanted you to learn English and assimilate into the country and kind of step away a little bit from those Italian roots so that you seemed more quote unquote American?
Yeah, well, that's something that as time went on, I wanted to do. What ends up happening is you move to America or you move to another country, but in this case, you moved to Norristown. But it felt like after about 5, 6, 7, 8 years, the entire town of Montella, Italy moved with us. So there was like the same people you were living with over there are now living in Norristown. So I was going to a school called St. Francis. which was a block away from where we lived. So when we bought a house, finally, after three or 4 years, we moved to a different part of Norristown, and I had a choice. I could go to Holy Savior, which was, you had to be Italian to go to Holy Savior. One of your parents had to be Italian. Or you could just go to St. Francis, where it was a mix of everybody. And my mother flat out said, you're not going to Holy Savior. We didn't come here for you to hang around with Italian kids. So you need to go to a school where, and I would come home and I would only speak English once I learned the language. I would only speak English to my parents so I could teach them how to speak. And they would only speak Italian, so I never forgot how to speak Italian. It was a great arrangement. And it's kind of how I grew up.
Yeah, it's so interesting. My grandparents, they immigrated from Calabria and Sicily, and it was kind of the same thing. My parents really don't speak because it was very important for them to assimilate to American culture.
Absolutely. And sometimes if you're not careful, I had never been to school, so I really didn't know the language. I didn't know anything. And my mother can't read or write. She never spent a day of school in her life. So it wasn't like you were brought up in a home where education was valued and you were taught every day, about the value of education. It was, it was two parents working in factories and spoke a dialect of Italian that, unless you live when you go to Italy, and I go to Italy all the time now, people ask, hey, you speak Italian? I said, no, I don't speak Italian. I speak dialect. You speak io parlo dialetto. And they always go, see, and they understand it all. But then when they start talking, when I go to Florence or I go to Venice or I go to Rome, I sit there and I go, what country am I in? I don't understand a damn word they're saying. And it takes me like 2 days to kind of figure out. And then once I get caught up, I'm okay. But they understand immediately and they laugh. I can see the smile on their face when I say some words. And they just kind of shake their head. They go, this guy must be some country bumpkin or something from down.
No. Where is your town located?
It's about an hour and change east of Naples in the mountains. So we lived in a town of about 5,000 people.
Yeah, that's not too far. We come from Avellino, a town called Andretta. Doesn't sound like it's too far from where you're referring to, Coach.
Probably not.
But I'm curious. A person who came from that background and then rises to the level of being the prolific, unbelievably talented coach of a women's basketball team. How did you make that transition from a boy that comes over here at 7 years old speaking no English to the best coach ever of a female basketball team? How did that happen?
Like most things happen, by accident. Some people, I marvel at these people that have their whole life planned out for them, and they know at what age they're going to be doing what, And when I said that I went to school and I didn't speak the language, the only way I could learn was make friends with the other kids in second grade and then hang out with them. So where are you going to hang out with them? You're going to hang out in the playground. And we lived right across the street from a public school, and there was a playground there. So all I had to do was walk across the street and there was always kids there, and that's how I learned. So I got into sports at a really early age because my next door neighbor, he loved baseball, and baseball became a passion for me. I played every single day. So, sports has always been a part of my life. I've always been on some kind of a team. And then somebody asked me one day, said, you want to help me coach this basketball team? I said, of what? And he said, it's high school girls basketball. I said, no, why would I want to do that? And he said, well, because, you might be pretty good at it. I said, I don't really have any interest in that. And he kept bugging me and bugging me and bugging me. And finally I went. I'm just finishing playing in college. I'm 21. These kids are 16, 17. And I'm trying to help them learn basketball. And the look on their face is like, wow, this is really cool. And next thing you know, I end up at the University of Virginia as a coach, an assistant coach. And 4 years later, I'm here in Connecticut, and people say, did you have this all planned out? I said, no, this is one giant accident from a guy bugging me all the time about, I said that, and I didn't think I would stay in it this long. And here I am, 37 years at Connecticut and 46 years as a coach total.
We'll be right back after this break.
What's the secret to my famous margarita pizza? Fresh basil, fresh mozzarella, and cento.
People ask my wife, what's the secret to your bolognese?
A little of this, a pinch of that, and cento.
Grandma passed on 2 family secrets.
saute, don't fry.
And always cook with Cento.
It's no secret that the best tasting dishes use Cento, San Marzano tomatoes imported from Italy, with nothing added, just authentic flavor for authentic Italian cooking. Cento, trust your family with our family.
The Sons of Italy Foundation and Hardcore Italians are partnering for a fundraiser. Hardcore Italians is donating $5 for every St. Joseph's Day t-shirt sold to SIF. Funds will be used for the St. Joseph's Day Altar exhibit at the Sons of Italy Museum on Staten Island. For more details, scan the QR code on the bottom right.
How did those formative years, though, coming to a new country, learning the language, how did that shape you into the person and coach that you are today?
It is true that the boys really do get a lot of their stuff from their moms, and my mother is a great example of someone who, as I mentioned, she can't read and she can't write. She's never driven a car, no checkbook, no credit cards, nothing. And is very self-sufficient and is probably one of the smartest people in the United States. But it's always been about figuring out how to survive at the next thing that you're asked to do. And for me, that idea of figure it out has helped me teach my players. We can't explain everything to you that might happen. The world doesn't work that way. There's a lot of stuff that you have to figure out. So I'm going to give you this much information and I'm going to make you figure out the rest. That way, you're going to be a smart basketball player, not just a kid who runs up and down. So my coaching really comes from how I grew up and how I was taught. How Italian moms, they love everybody. They invite everybody in. They're compassionate. They just are people. And I think I really got those genes from my mother.
Yeah, I'm just curious, what's the biggest change that you've made either in yourself or your program from your first season to your current season that has helped you become as successful as you are?
If you're in any kind of business, which this is, it's all about recruiting and acquiring talent and trying to get the best people to come join your program. And my first couple of years, we didn't have access to the best people. So we had to really scramble to get people, and we had to work our butt off to teach them how to be what we wanted them to be. Now I have access to the best players in the world. So it's a little bit different than the recruiting process. But what we've had to change is the mindset of the people that you have to bring in.
Mindset's big with me, Coach. I actually have a radio show where we talk a lot about mindset in terms of professional and personal. And I wanted to ask you, because you're dealing with pressure situations as a leader, you have to lead these young students. You talked about the word mindset. What do you find is in your personal success, the mindset that set you forward? Was it just having that little information and going with the flow? Or when you've had down times in your life, what can you tell our audience about where your resiliency came from and how you pass that off to your students?
I've always felt like I could be good at whatever I set my mind to. Whether that was true or not, it didn't matter. The fact that I thought like that allowed me to be successful, I think. I think some people go into different or new situations and they have a negative mindset. They automatically assume the worst. They see what all the problems are in that situation. I've never thought like that. My thinking has always been, what's the downside? I'll just go back to Norristown and go drive a truck for one of my friends. What's the downside? So I'm always looking at what's the upside of me making this change or me making this decision. So I'm always trying to impress upon my kids, my students here and my kids at home. There is no downside to trying things, to taking risks. there is no pressure when you're asked to do something that you're good at. Pressure is when somebody asks you to do something you're not good at.
Lisa, how much does that remind us of astronaut Mike Massimino when he said he knew that the possibility of him becoming an astronaut was slim to none, but he knew that it would be zero if he didn't try, Lisa?
Exactly.
There you go.
Exactly.
There you go. There you go. I couldn't agree with that more.
Yeah. Hey, it's the reason why my production company, Bob, is Long Shot Productions. That's really how I got that name. Because when I was tasked with, am I going to go off and do my own thing instead of working for a network, right? Because, Gino, you would appreciate this. I got my start in media at WFAN. So I know you're very familiar with them, Mike and Mad Dog. Yeah. And, you know, when it came time to, do I continue on this path or do I do something completely different? The name Long Shot came to mind because I have my sports background, and also, you know, I cannot take the shot, right? And it's a long shot that this might work out, but it really might. And here we are. So
that's right. That's exactly right.
Italian resiliency.
I never knew that.
Yeah. Justin, I know that we have a ton of viewers watching on Facebook Live right now, writing in questions. Can we take a couple?
Yeah, absolutely. So like Lisa Marie said, they're coming in hot and heavy. But one jumped out at me and I wanted to bring this up first. A gentleman named Vince DiGregorio, and I recognize his name. He's a frequent viewer of our program. He wrote, "My mother, Maria DiGregorio, is from the same hometown of Montella, Avellino. As Gino's family, his mom went to school with your mom, Marziale, and he wanted to send a hello from his family and see how your mother was doing."
My mother may have been walking by that school to go to work, but she never went inside. My mother's 90 now, and her mind is still sharp as a tack. She doesn't move around as much as she used to. She still cooks, and she had some allergies one time and went to the doctor, and the doctor gave her these scratch tests, and he said, "You're allergic to tomatoes, dust, and coffee." And she said, "I might as well kill myself. All I do is clean, cook, and drink coffee. What the hell's there to live for?" So she's got a great sense of humor, and I'll tell her she always loves hearing about Italy and hearing about the old country.
Many of our viewers have written in, and they're curious about, obviously you have an extremely busy schedule with basketball season, then in the off season recruiting, and how often do you get to go back to Italy? And when you go back, where do you go? All over? Do you go back to your hometown? Our viewers were curious about that.
I have lots of relatives back there still, aunts and uncles. Normally when I go there, it's either been, I've got a week and I'll go over or I'm traveling with USA basketball with the Olympic team or with my team or with some group that I'm hosting over there from the University of Connecticut. But I've been every place in Italy that I've wanted to go to. And the place I keep going back to is this little, the actual town of Amalfi. There's a hotel there that we go to. When you try to describe to people that have never been there and seen it, there's a lot of beautiful places in the world, obviously. But to me, that's home. That's the most beautiful place in the world.
You can't beat Amalfi. Can't beat the Amalfi Coast, and especially Amalfi.
Hey, Coach, I wanted to ask you, you're certainly not, even though you're great at what you do with that basketball court stuff and your women basketball team, but you're not a one-trick pony either. You have your own line of business, as I understand, with your own wines. And I have a follow-up question to this, sauce, as well as a cafe in Connecticut. How did your background and your culture, I mean, there's many things you could do, and I'm sure there's lots of people that would love to have you be a part of that. Why did you pick that? And tell us where we can find all that stuff.
The restaurant that I have in Connecticut, in the town that I live in, Manchester, we bought an existing restaurant in a building from an Italian family that had been operating a restaurant there since 1933. And it was one of the best restaurants, not just in Connecticut, but probably in the country. And they just couldn't do it anymore. And I would go there 2 or 3 times a week. And it got a little bit old. So I bought the building, I bought the restaurant, and I turned it into what you would find if you went to New York City. You went to New York City and you walk in, That's the kind of restaurant that it is. It's an Italian steakhouse, kind of, sort of. I love being around people. And what better way to be around people than go to a restaurant and enjoy people's company? The wine thing, we have some wines that are made in Italy that we sell over here in America, and probably go on our website. Actually, if you go on Cafe Aura, AURA.com, you can probably find where you can get some of the wines that we have. But really, the wines are just a hobby. So is the sauce that we make. It's got my picture and my mother's picture on there. She likes that. I don't ever remember making a dime off any of those things. Somebody's getting paid. Hopefully it's somebody that I know in my family or somebody, but I don't remember ever getting a dime out of those wines and that sauce. But I've always enjoyed it, and I want to do more of it.
We'll be right back after this break.
What's the secret to my famous margarita pizza? Fresh basil, fresh mozzarella, and cento.
People ask my wife, what's the secret to your bolognese?
A little of this, a pinch of that, and cento. Grandma passed on 2 family secrets. Sauté, don't fry,
and always cook with cento.
It's no secret that the best tasting dishes use cento, San Marzano tomatoes imported from Italy, with nothing added, just authentic flavor for authentic Italian cooking. Cento, trust your family with our family.
Watch the Italian America Show every Sunday night at 8 p.m. on News 12 Plus and celebrate the best of Italian American culture. Each week, we will feature an exclusive interview with a prominent Italian American from around the country. You can watch the Italian America Show on Optimum 61, Verizon 530, or stream live from anywhere on News12.plus. For more on Order Sons and Daughters of Italy in America, please visit OSDIA.org. Please also follow us on social media.
Would you be offended? I'm not asking you, but would you be offended if you called it gravy instead of sauce?
Who calls it gravy? I never understood
Bob
that.
does, for some reason.
I never understood that. I never understood where that came from. Gravy is like brown that you put on mashed potatoes and stuff.
Yes.
You know, sauce is red and it's got like, garlic and oil and, and we make it plain, just basil.
Coach, when my mother was sick and ready to pass, myself and my sister had to make we call it gravy here in Jersey, at least in the area I'm in.
I don't, by the way. And we're both in Jersey, but anyway.
For Christmas. And I was sick as a kid, so I grew up on my mother's hip, and she was teaching me how to cook. And my sister and myself were having an argument on how to make the gravy. My sister wanting to make it more complex, and I was making it more simple. And my sister was arguing, but that's how Mom taught me how to make it. So we went to her, and she said, well, when I was getting more sophisticated, I thought putting more ingredients in would be a good thing. But then I switched back to the way I used to make it simple. Because you know what, kids? I found out, like everything in life, simpler is better. I was always bringing that message.
Definitely.
I think that is the absolute truth, man.
Well, Coach, next time you're in New Jersey, you have to stop by and pick up a jar of homemade from my house. This summer with my grandparents, we made with the fresh Jersey tomatoes. My grandparents, God bless them, 89 and 93 years old, and awesome. They're still making sauce.
Well, I go to New Jersey. I bought a house in Avalon, New Jersey. We've been going there for years and years and years, and I love going there. I can't imagine spending a summer anywhere else.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Well, Coach, I think that we could talk to you forever, but we would like to have you say just one final word about the importance of your Italian heritage, and to our audience out there, a lot of people suffering from COVID and being tired of being stuck at home. What words of wisdom can you give to them?
I always said this. I said it to my kids, who are very, very proud. My grandson, he's 8, and he had to write a little paper for school. He's in second grade, third grade, whatever he is, second grade. And the first thing he wrote up top, my name's Andrew. And you should know one thing about me. I'm Italian. I mean, that's the first thing he wrote on his paper, right? His father's Italian. Obviously, my daughter's, Italian. We also, I grew up thinking that I have something no one else has. I have the ability to have lived two different cultures. I've had experience in a way of life that and this goes for any immigrant, not just Italian. I think this goes for any immigrant living in this country. They're so fortunate because they have experiences that other kids who don't have that opportunity will ever have. And for me, as an Italian kid growing up, there was always a feeling like, why do you always want to come to my house for dinner? I know why. Why do you always want to eat my lunch when I go to school? I know why. Because you guys are bringing ham and cheese sandwiches and I'm bringing sausage and peppers. So, I always thought like, you ask some of my friends that I grew up with, they ask them, where's the best restaurant in Norristown? They'll tell you, Gino's mom's basement. Just go there and eat and you're not going to get it. So, and we had this way about us, the way we talk and the way we are as people. A lot of what's good in this country is because of what Italians have done.
Amen.
Now, that doesn't mean that we're any better than anybody else. That just means we've had an impact. We've made an imprint in this country. And if you're ever sitting at home, and you're feeling down and, just we're people. So pick up the phone, call your friends, go out, meet them for coffee. We've been stuck inside for all this time, but that's not the Italian thing. The Italian thing is mingling. It's putting your arms around people.
I'm so glad, Coach, that Paul Polo, who is a past president of the Sons of Italy, connected us. And we do look forward to having you back to do that wine show at some point in time. But Lisa, unfortunately, we got to take it home.
I want to do that. And, Paul Polo could ask me to jump off a bridge. And as long as he was jumping with me, I would do it. There isn't anything that he could ask of me that I wouldn't do if I possibly can. He's one of the finest people I've ever met.
That's great, Coach.
I love it. Well, Coach, thank you so much for joining us. I wish I had some iota of athleticism in my body because I would have loved to have played for you.
Well,
when I was out college eligible because you just seem like so fun to be around on and off the court. So we thank you for this.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Okay. Be well.
For more related topics in this series, please visit our YouTube channel, Order Sons and Daughters of Italy in America. For more information on Order Sons and Daughters of Italy in America and how to join, please visit OSDIA.org. Please also follow us on social media. The Italian America Show is sponsored by Full Sponsorship, Cento Fine Foods. Trust your family with our family. The Bianchi Law Group. Dr. K, the Management Professor. The authors of the #1 international best-selling cookbook, Don't Cut the Basil. Dr. Mark D'Annunzio, National 4th Vice President, Order Sons and Daughters of Italy in America. The Grand Lodge of New York. The Grand Lodge of Ohio. The Grand Lodge of Virginia. The Grand Lodge of Maryland. The Grand Lodge of the Northwest, representing Oregon and Washington. Long Shot Productions, get back in the game. ACMT, Excellence in Aerospace Manufacturing. Purchase the new book, The Palm Beach PI, by Italian-American private investigator Frank Ciato, available now where books are sold.